let's take a look at the match and index functions that are found in Excel. We're going to start with this data that we have here. This is the same data that I use when I discuss how to use VLOOKUP. Now with VLOOKUP we were able to look up information in this table of information, but we were limited because we could only start with anything that was in the far left column, and we could only look at anything that went to the right of it, plus we couldn't insert any columns if we wanted to. Match and index will allow us a little more flexibility in how we look up information in this table. So we're going to start, let's say we want to look up using the person's last name, and we want to find out what row it is in. Now, match will return to us the location of the data that we're looking for, the location of the record that we're looking for. So I'm going to put nice little lines around this just for fun. I think it makes it look a little easier to work with. So we're going to put in, we want to be able to put in the last name and find out what row it's in. Now remember, this might have 500, 5,000 rows in it. So we're going to start with the function, and we access the match function the same way we do any function. We start with equals. We type in match. Now, as it always does, it tells us what this function is. It returns the relative position of an item in an array of data that matches the specified value in a specified order. So what we're going to do is we're going to look up the last name, and we're going to find it somewhere in this table. But the way we do it, again, we're going to hit Control A, and the first thing we're going to look up is the lookup value, which is going to be whatever I type into this cell right there. And you can fix it if you want to. It's not absolutely necessary in this case. The next thing we want is to look up array. Now we're not going to look up in the whole table. Unlike VLOOKUP, we have to look up in a specific column. So we're going to look up anything in the column here that's this data, and again I can fix that if I wish. And in VLOOKUP we use false to indicate an exact match. We're going to use the number 0 to indicate that we're looking for an exact match here. And when I hit OK, it's going to tell me NA, but that's because I haven't given it anything to look up yet. If I look up Boyd, it's going to find it. It's in row 1 of my data. Not row 1 of the Excel spreadsheet, but row 1 of the data, right? If I look up Jones, it's going to tell me that's in row 5 of the data. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There it is, right? If I look up Rand, it's going to tell me that is in row 13 of the table. Now, there's a limit here. Two things I have not done. I have not named this data, these data ranges, and I also haven't set it up as a table. So what if I went ahead and named these data ranges? I think that'll make things a little bit easier for us. So I'm going to delete that formula, and I'm going to go in and name these data ranges. So the way to do it, I'm just going to highlight all my data. And the way you can do it, you can click on the first one, do Control-Shift down, and Control-Shift to the right, and it highlights all the data. I'm now going to go up to Formulas and type on Create from Selection. We've got a slideshow or a lecture on how to use how to create named ranges. I just want the top row to be my name, so I'm going to hit OK. And it's going to name all those. And I know it's named them because I look over here and there they are. You notice the first name and last name are 2 words, which you're supposed to not be able to use in named ranges, but see how they're connected by an underscore? If you type in this as a name of a range, you have to type in the underscore as well. So now we're going to go back and we're going to type in equals match and my Control A. I'm going to choose Rand or whatever's in that cell. I'm now going to type in last underscore name, and I'll type in 0. So now I don't have to go highlight anything in the table. I hit OK, and it's going to tell me right where it was. If I want to pick Brown, it tells me it's in row 2. If I want to pick Johnson, it tells me it's in row 4, etc. So I can use the named range to make it a little bit more efficient. Now, one of the problems with the way I did this, if I add data to the table, maybe I add some more students, that this is not going to pick it up. Let me demonstrate. So let's say we add Davis and to the table, and I want to go find out what row that is in. Well, if I type in Davis up here, it's going to say NA, right? Now I could go back in and use my thing. See, it didn't even pick it up in the named range, right? Because it's a named range, and I've changed the range by adding another item to it. So let's delete that. And we're going to go in, now that we've got this as a table, or as a data, and we've got all the names, the ranges named, I'm going to go in and create a table. So I'm going to insert a table, and I'll say OK. And now I've got a table. Now if I add Davis's name now, watch what's going to happen. Watch this row box. I'm going to put in Davis. Boom, and it finds it. It's in row 15, right? Because as I add anything, if I add Howard, okay, now it doesn't show it yet, but if I type in Howard up here, it's going to say 16. Now, I have to do this. I have to turn it into a table before I add the new names. If I try to turn it into a table after I've added the names, even though the names will be in the table, the range won't pick those up. So I change it to it. First I put in my named ranges, then I change it to a table, then I start adding new data, and it's important that you do it in that order. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the index function. So the next thing we're going to do is look at the index function. So I'm going to get rid of that function we had in the match there. Let's get rid of that as well. The last name, we'll put that in later. So in the index function, we start at the same equals index. And I'm going to hit Control A. Now this tells us, by the way, this returns a value or a reference at the intersection of a row and a column for a given range. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit our Control A, and it's going to bring up our arguments over here. Now it's a little different for index. It doesn't give us the nice table that it did before, but that's okay. We're looking up three things. We're only looking up three things with index. I'm going to close this and go back to index. We're only looking up the array. We're only interested in this first one. We're not interested in the second index, by the way. We're looking up the array, in other words, where the data can be found. We're looking up the row number and the column number, okay, or the row and the column, and so we're going to actually put in numbers for that. So in this case, we are going to highlight the whole data, all the data, and we'll just do that right here. And we are going to say, we're going to look for, let's just say we're going to look for row 2 in column 4. And it's going to give us spring 22. And we see row 2, column, let's see what I say it was. Can't even remember now. It said row 2, column 4. There's row 2, column 4. Because remember, that counts as the first row because we highlighted that. Now that's not necessarily very useful to us by itself, but when we combine this function with the index function, or excuse me, with the match function, you're going to find that it's very, very useful to us. Now again, this data is in a table, so if we wanted to know what the table name was, we go to table design, and it's in table 5. So we could do this equals index, and then just say table 5, and it's going to pick up table 5. Then we say we want it row 4, column 2, and we're going to get a name Ashley. Okay, here's 1, 2, 3, 4 in the table, and Ashley, because it counts differently if I use the table instead of actually highlighting the range, right? If I put in different row in table, it would give me a different. In fact, I could put in where I wanted it. I could put in, I could do, let's just say, let's put in a row number here. We'll say that's row, and this is column. Actually, let me do it this way. We've got row, let's see, let's put row right here, and column right here. So now, and we're going to put that in a box. Just because it makes it easier to see it, I guess. And so now we can do our index. We can say equals index, anything in table 5 using this row and this column. So now it becomes a little more useful to us. I can say I want something that says spill because I haven't put anything in there yet. But if I say I want a row 1, column 5. It's going to tell me, it says fall 21. And sure enough, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there it is. If I typed in row 13, column 4, it's going to tell me row 13 is Rand, and that's column 4 is spring 1981. So I could pick all that up, and that would help me to figure out, find stuff in that cell. Now again, this isn't particularly useful to me just by itself, but it's going to be very useful to me when I combine index and match into a common or a combined function. So let's suppose I want to, for a given person, I want to know what year they took accounting, let's just say 3170. Okay, so how would I use index and match together to find that? Okay, well, I'd start off with my equals index. I'm going to reference the particular item I want, which is underscore 3170. That's the name of the variable, or of the named range, is underscore 3170. Then I'm going to go to use match. And with match, I want it to go up and pick the, I'm going to put in the last name. I want it to look in the range of last underscore name. And again, 0, I'm looking for exact matches. And so when I do that, I close my parentheses, and now I get, so if I type in Rand, it tells me I took that in fall of 1980. If I type in C, it says he took it in fall of 78. If I type in Brown, says Brown took it in spring of 2019. The problem is, what if I want to do Brown in counting 3180? Well, it's not going to change for that, right? Or 3210. It's not going to change for that, because this is just to find what's in the accounting 3170 column. We're next going to look at how to use match to now be able to put in two variables and find out the answer. Okay, so that's the next thing that we're going to do with these index and match functions. So let's ask ourselves, what if we wanted to be able to put in the last name in one of the courses and to see what year that person took that course? Well, that's two conditions, not just one, and we're still trying to find out when they took the course. So what we're going to do, this data is in a table. The table is labeled, if I look at it up here, table design is labeled table 8, so that's the table reference we will use. And so we're going to combine our index function and our match function together. So we're going to start out with index. And what we're looking for is anything in table 8. Okay, 8. And we're going to now do match. Match is going to tell us the row that we need. The row that we need is going to be whatever this word is. And we're looking up last name. Okay, that's the range we're looking at. And we're going to use 0 as for an exact match. And we're going to do another match function, only this time we're going to match the column. And so whatever is in B4 is the column we're looking for. And we're going to look for all these columns across here. So we'll just highlight those columns. And now we'll hit exact match 0, close parent, and enter. And it's going to give us, it's going to return for this. Now it's important that this, if these are all text, then this also needs to be text. For example, if these are numbers, let's just reference those and change those to a number. And we try to put in something. Well, it actually still gives it to us. So it doesn't matter if we change this to a number or if we change. The important thing is that this has to be, but we have to make sure the text. Sometimes you'll put this in and you'll keep getting an NA down here. And it's because the whatever you've got in this course number line is not the right format. So you might need to go and do a right click, go down in format and change your format for yourself. So anyway, that's how we combine match and index to be able to look up, based on two parameters, a piece of information.